Of this hat. All right. How's it going, everybody? It's Juansgalt, and welcome to Crypto TV. Is that what my channel's called now? I don't know. I've changed it like 3 times. I'm here with Kenny, magical Kenny. He is the hardest working hippie I have ever met, by far, and he's an awesome dude.
Thank you. Yeah. Hard working hippies.
Yeah. We just met at Rainbow, and he writes a lot about Rainbow and sort of has a good series of sort of articles about the. You want to tell?
Yeah, the series is called The Rainbow Gathering: 5 Decades of Beta Testing Anarchist Society. And yeah, just kind of go into the different ways that it functions in a physical sense, in like an interpersonal sense, the history of it, interactions with the government, or lack of interactions with the government, kind of what I think it represents on the large scale. And I think it's amazing to me that this has been going on for almost 50 years, with as many as 80,000 people at an event, hundreds of events a year, and yet most people in the world have never heard of it. Kind of makes sense. Most people have never heard of anything. Most people in the liberty movement have never heard of it. Most people in like the permaculture movement have never heard of it. Like most people who are completely in alignment with what's going on there have no idea that it's happening. Like that there is such a huge historical and experiential reference to give people for what we're talking about. And
it's amazing. I was there for about probably like a week, a good 10 days, I think. And I had an amazing time. I actually just did a video with Mackenzie Wolf on my other YouTube channel. I'll put a link below. Talked about her for like 45 minutes. And you and I could talk about it for a while. But I want to talk to you right now about Steemit. We've been talking about Steemit a lot. He's been on Steemit for like, how long have you been on it?
It's been just over a year now. It's been like a year and a half, or a year and like a month, year and a half a month, something like that. Since I joined.
So I actually just spent like a week, like good 10 days on a Rainbow, and we did a full conversation with Mackenzie Wolf. She's a yogi and also another magical creature. Check that out on my YouTube channel. I'll put the link below. Yeah. It was great, man. It was awesome. Rainbow was awesome. So definitely check it out. You have to like learn about this. It's like it'll change your life. It's like you see an environment that your body is built for and you don't even know existed before, and you're kind of your impulse is kind of aligned to this thing, and it's like, oh, things are so much easier, and it's designed to make it so that you can just be free and not have to worry about survival, which is it's heavy having to worry about survival for like every day. Like that's something that it kind of it gives you that sort of that freedom. So good stuff. Yeah.
It's you truly get to just choose to do whatever you want to do, whatever feels good in that moment. No expectations from anybody, no requirements of anything to have food or to be taken care of or to be warm or It's definitely something I think that everyone should experience at least once in their life. Like it's
for real,
it's and huge.
And there's so many things that you can do. I'm gonna make this closer. There's so many things that you can do too, because there's so many interesting people. Like you said this multiple times, that it's like a microcosm of society, but it's like a hippie version of a microcosm of society.
Right. It's you get the whole spectrum of the rainbow. That's like the whole idea there, is you get the whole spectrum of people, but you get that spectrum of people inside of a certain container. So you still get people from like very much
container called nature.
Yeah, nature. Well, and just a space of everyone remembering that we're family, instead of thinking that we're all totally separate things that have nothing to do with each other except how we interact through government and businesses and stuff. Like it's everyone's there, kind of on the same page, and you don't usually get large numbers of people all on the same page. And you 10,000, 100,000, a million people in a city, but none of them are really, they just live in the same place. They don't have anything in common most of the time, really, besides geographical location. And this is like there's more like bullet points that you need to hit in order to be there. You don't just like happen to live in the forest where Rainbow is. You came out because you wanted to be in that space of humans taking care of each other and working together and being decent to each other.
Yeah, there's a lot more intention in this, and so the people that should meet there are people that have a lot more in common with you, more likely, if you're into this kind of thing. And and you can find, like, I found so many different people. I talked about it for like an hour with Mackenzie, and it was great. And you and I can sort of definitely talk about this quite a bit. Is there anything else you want to say about that?
I mean, I've got pretty much out everything that I have to say about it. You know, I've got the series of articles on Steemit, and then on YouTube I've got my 40-minute presentation from Acapulco, from Anarchapulco, for people that want to listen to something instead. You know, and I really go into how it's affected my life and all of the different ways that I think it's really important to the movement that people be familiar with this.
Yeah, it's amazing because they're building infrastructure, and so it's a lot about how do you actually bring about a free society in the way that we see it today, instead of having to deal with all that old stuff, right? It's sort of go and build something new from fresh, from start, and see what it would look like and what it would feel like, and they have achieved a great deal, and I'm very grateful for what they've done, because it is 40 years of history, and it's amazing. So I'll put your links below, and check out everything that Kenny's doing. It's amazing. And another space that you've sort of found that kind of freedom from the sort of modern corporatist government systems, or this massive monolith, is Steemit.
Yeah.
And you're doing some amazing stuff on Steemit. I'm really impressed, and sort of kind of almost, I feel like a noob. I feel like I'm learning a new thing, even though I understand Steemit from a certain level, like sort of technical, sort of crypto level. It's still like, it's so rich as far as the culture and the way that, and it's so complex the way that things work, that I don't really sort of understand it.
Yeah, there's
like
so much depth to the different cultures. There's like different ones inside of it, kind of, too, you know, because there is a big crypto culture there, but then there's also like the blogging people, like people that's kind of more where they come from, and there's the voting and how all of that works, and witnessing, you know, the mining system in there. There's it blows me away, the API, and like what's available on Steemit versus what's available through the other websites that access parts of the API that Steemit doesn't show you, like Steam stats and stuff, where you can see all these little details. Like, I've spent many hundreds of hours, you know, digging through Steemit, having conversations with people, researching it, walking people through these things that I've learned there, and it's like I'm very low level in my understanding of it.
These things
even.
are deep, very, very deep. Yeah, I mean, I just wrote an article about EOS and BitShares and delegated proof of stake, which is the consensus system that Steemit uses. And I published it on TDV, so if you're a subscriber to TDV, you can check it out there. If you're not, go get one so you can see it. But it's really an amazing system, because it's delegated proof of stake, so it's a kind of liquid democracy concept where you all have a vote, and you vote based on how much money you have on this account, and that's the stake part. And that's a closed system, so there's only so much money, and so it becomes kind of like a reputation system in a sense, where the more money that you choose to invest in it, the more weight you have in the system as a voter. And so you can grab those votes, and you can allocate their voting value to another person that you trust, for example,
right,
to make those decisions that you judge that is qualified enough to do that, right? And so it is very much a grassroots sort of democratic sort of system in a sense, but it's liquid democracy. So you don't have to make the decision yourself. And I mean, it doesn't even make sense that people would actually try to make decisions about something as technical as anything, because you can get really technical with anything if you don't actually feel like you know what you're talking about. It makes a lot more sense to sort of allocate some of that trust to other people in certain ways. I mean, obviously there's problems. You could sort of try to, maybe there's ways to game it, and a lot of these things are sort of game theoretical sort of solutions. So it depends, but it's cool that you can actually like. So you have some people that, for example, that are doing that with you, right? Like they're
I've got people whose witness vote is, I feel like it's not delegate that they use there. Delegates for Steam Power. It's proxied. They've proxied their witness vote to me. So yeah, I'm not using all of my witness votes at the moment. I think I've got like 18 witnesses that I'm voting for, but each person that I go and click to choose them as one of my witnesses, they get 4 more votes from other people right behind mine, because all of those are proxied to me. Because those people, it's one of the many really deep levels of Steemit that a lot of people are never going to get involved in whatsoever. You know, they're never going to go vote for a witness. But I can tell them a one-time thing, you know, hey, you trust my judgment in the system. I got all of these people on Steemit, so if you want it to go the direction that I want it to go, you can just one time go in and just put Kenny's Kitchen as your proxy, and then all those votes are going to go to the people who are making it the best it can be.
Yeah. And how do you make that decision then, or like what's the experience of sort of like looking at these witnesses? Do they have like profile pictures?
Oh yeah,
and like,
yeah. Right. There's a whole page that's super in depth. Actually, it has it doesn't have profile pictures there, but you can find it. It has all of their Steemit accounts. It has links to their witness page where like they first like their introduction kind of as a witness. The post. It has the last block that they have updated in the system, so you can see how far behind they are, what the current version of the blockchain is, what version of the blockchain they're running. So like when there's a hard fork, you can see which version different witnesses are running. You can see what the interest rate is that they have set for Steem dollars, because the idea is anytime Steem dollars are under $1, they bump the interest rate to bring them back up to $1 in value. Like that's how it's pegged, is by a changeable interest rate. That's how it's pegged to $1. Wow. So it's been 0% for a long time, because it was at well up over $1. Now it's like 96 cents or whatever. So they've got it up to a 1% interest rate now to try to stabilize that again.
Wow.
And you can see all of these.
Like that's things. Very distributed, because then people get to choose who sets what interest rate they like.
Yeah.
This crypto voting system. And then you go in and sort of like people like you go and make that actual sort of vote. Yep. And there's also like this kind of crypto politics element to it, which we're also seeing in Bitcoin, where you have to choose different versions, and you choose them based on what their vision of the people supporting them is, right? And so you are kind of guiding the future of this thing through certain influence. Now, with Steem, it's a lot more quantifiable and enforceable in a sense, because you have this wealth that you can allocate to somebody, or you can go and allocate it yourself personally. You do not have to delegate it. You can just make that call yourself, and you'll go and read all these things. And I assume some of them like talk about what their vision is, right? Like they probably have blogs and stuff. And
a lot of them do like regular updates and stuff. 2 of my favorite of the witnesses are Team Steem and Agrode, just Agro ED. Those 2 guys both have been doing amazing things, both as content creators and as witnesses. And they work together on the Minnow support project, which Agrode actually started. There's others as well. The Prophet and Canadian Coconut are witnesses that are behind that project as well. But like Agrode is a really cool, and he does a lot of really good stuff. He's very into like building the community, building the numbers, like maximizing the parts of Steemit that are all about incentivizing, you know, being a good person, and about building community, and about spreading the wealth. You know, he wants to help move it away from any kind of like centralized monopoly thing, which the last hard fork really helped in that, like distributing power a lot more. It's still very much like anything that starts off with like a small number of miners and stuff. Like power is somewhat centralized, but it's becoming less and less so with each new like iteration, each new change that they work on spreading that.
That's fascinating. I didn't even know about that.
With the new hard fork, so the way that voting was calculated before, with the way that voting was calculated with that?
No, go ahead.
Okay, so the way voting was calculated before is your voting power raises the price, the potential payout of a post based on, among all the things in your account and stuff, based on the current value of the post. So the more that a post goes up, the more the same amount of Steem power is going to increase it. It was an exponential thing. So like I had, say when I had very little Steem power, if I put a vote on a post that was at $1, it might add a penny to it. If I went and found a post that was at $500 and I voted on it, it would add, say, 30 cents to it, because it's more, it's multiplied. Now it's all just
Linear.
additive. It's linear. So if my vote is worth 25 cents, it's always worth 25 cents. If your vote is worth $1,000, it's always worth $1,000 instead of being 1,000 to start and then much bigger as it gets bigger. And then it also increased what a full power vote is worth. A full power vote used to be worth half of a voting power, or 0.5% of voting power, I mean. So you could do 40 a day.
Cycle lasts like a few days.
It's 5 days altogether. If you got down to 0, it would take you 5 full days to come back up. You regain 20% every day. And
so you actually like spend it as you vote, but it regenerates.
Yeah, it regenerates.
Yeah.
0.83
so it's more like a
an hour.
reputation thing rather than actual currency that you're sending people. It's like a reputation token. You vote with that, and then the system creates Steam dollars, and then there's a sort of other layer of exchange in the background. And
so it was 0.5% of your total power. Now 100% vote is 2% of your total power. So your voting power is 4 times higher than what it was before. Your potential. You can vote with 1%. You can have that slider once you get to a certain level of Steam power. When you get started, you don't have a slider. You get it at like 400 Steam power or so, and you can give anywhere from 1 to 100% vote. So if you wanted to, you could give 1% votes, and then you could have, I don't know, what would that would be like? You'd get a lot. You'd get like 500 votes a day. Without dropping your power below 80%.
It's way over my head at this point. At least right now.
Yeah. I'll tell you right now, I give roughly 50 votes a day. And all my votes are at 22% of my Steam power, which with my current level is like 5 cents per vote. Because you get the same amount.
Yeah, I used to have like 18 cents, and now I have like, it's like 2 cents.
Yeah.
Like 20 cents. I think it's like, no, it's like 2 cents right now.
Yeah,
So
well, it's
just
like right now
flipped
your
right now,
Steam
okay.
power is a lot more effective in voting, but
I'm a total noob in Steam.
the dollar values have dropped way down.
Yeah.
So it's like you're giving them more Steam, but that Steam is worth less money, kind of thing, So because it just happened like right after each other.
Yeah.
The
And
hard
there's like
fork,
a pool, right?
a week of lots of rewards, and then price crash and everything.
Yeah, so there's a reward pool, and this is, I guess, how much of the money get created after on the mint of every block or something. Like from the mint of every block, they're probably sort of grabbing a bunch of money, putting in some sort of pool of Steam, and from there they reward proportionally to the reputation.
Yeah, I don't
votes.
I don't 100% understand.
Yeah, it's something like
how
that.
There's a pool that's affected by previous things,
exactly
but it's
either.
also consistently recreating itself.
Well, it's because it's sort of so they have like an inflationary token, which is Steemit, and they're constantly inflating it. They're actually using inflation to reward sort of the people.
Yeah.
But then they actually they have a market in the background where the certain I don't know if it's the same as the witnesses, but people can sort of like it's like a marketplace. It's like an internal marketplace. It's very similar to what the Federal Reserve does. Like, and it's only similar from a financial architecture sense. It's not at all similar morally speaking whatsoever, right? Because like inflation itself is not inherently immoral, right? Like gold inflates, right? You keep finding gold, and maybe there's gold in an asteroid, and you get a bunch of new gold, and the supply just inflated. So inflation is not an immoral action. It's only moral what you do with that inflation and what the accountability of that decision is. Because with the Federal Reserve just like does whatever they're gonna do regardless of what you think. Right. So there's no accountability. They're actually like taking wealth from you if you use the currency, which you're very limited. Like your range of freedom as far as the use of the dollar, if you're an American, is very small. So it's you're essentially forced into it.
Yeah.
And so. But with Steemit, you're completely opt-in. So you're opting in, and you have 2,000 currencies to choose from. So it's fairly, like, it's not even the same moral category whatsoever.
Yeah.
But it's the same system architecture, pretty much. So they actually have, like, an internal market where they're trading dollars for Steemit, and they're trying to maintain the peg. And the closer that you get to the peg, you also get a reward from Steemit. You actually get rewarded for maintaining a peg to the dollar. Now the dollar became like a $2, so one Steam dollar is like $2, right?
Yeah, it was. No, right now it's like 97
it's
cents,
back to
95 cents. Yeah, it's actually down lower right now. But when Steam was worth like $2.50 or so, like weeks ago, even just a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, the Steam dollar was worth like $1.80, $1.90. Yeah, which is really cool because when
Yeah.
you got paid out from an article, it would say, $20 potential payout. Half of that goes to Steam Power, half of that goes to Steam dollars, and if it said 20, you would get 10 Steam dollars, which was then worth, $18 instead. So you were actually getting paid. You were getting more if you converted it to US than what it actually said on it.
Yeah, totally. You're getting paid.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It was a good couple weeks.
Yeah, 80% more. Yeah.
It was one of those things where I was really happy with the hard fork and the way things happened right at the shift there. All of a sudden I had a bunch of articles making $150 for 2 days, and then I went into the forest for 2 weeks. And then I came back to the rewards pool being drained and all the cryptocurrencies crashing.
Yeah.
It's okay, well, at least I pulled most everything out in the last couple months anyways.
Yeah, dude. I mean, this has been the time to cash out.
Yeah.
We're definitely we peaked for a while. It's sort of, best case scenario.
Wow. That's a wild price right now.
Yeah, best case scenario, cryptos go up if consensus is reached. If consensus in Bitcoin is not reached, there's going to be 2 Bitcoins for a few days at least. Maybe a few weeks. Worst case scenario, 6 months. It could be bad if there's a Bitcoin split.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I don't really see consensus happening right now. It's going to be... There's no consensus happening. People at least the only way that we're the best case realistic scenario that I see is Bitmain tries to create their own altcoin, and then that lasts maybe a few months, and then it just becomes a minority altcoin, the size of Litecoin or something, right? Or maybe it takes 30% and it's $20 billion, right? Or $10 billion at this point, right? And then they have to spend a bunch of time trying to they're both gonna have to do multiple forks in order, at least one more fork, to be able to sever the network, because the network rails are still connected between both blockchains, but their history is different because they're accepting different transactions. Yeah.
Weird.
It's different economic histories.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's certain replay attack theft things that you can do because the network infrastructure is still connected. So you have to withdraw, as a user, you have to withdraw your money to your own private account, or you have to choose an exchange that will sever the chain, the network locally, in their exchange, and give you 2 different coins and split them. And it was amazing. I made a video about it during the Ethereum Classic split where that happened, and it was an amazing thing to witness, because it's like this thing is so in a sense it's giving birth to a new thing. It's like that process of reproduction in the cell, right? Or in any other animal, it's splitting in 2. And so there goes the other one, but there's a severing process, and that severing process in blockchains is still with Ethereum. It was relatively easy with a fork, but you have to do a fork, a hard fork inside of, or some sort of fork to I guess sever the chain. I don't know if it's technically a hard fork. The definitions of hard versus soft fork are super complicated. I mean, it's getting very, very sophisticated, and so. But I think it's a minor fork anyways, right? And so that's what's happening with Bitcoin right now. And I don't know if, I don't really see consensus happening. And that's why I have it. I sold a bunch as much as I reasonably could, or I was capable of, because you get attached to these cryptos, man. I'm looking at some of my balances on my account, and I'm on my sort of accounting, and I'm I don't want to sell that much of this. I definitely want to hold that, right? And so there's a thing that you gotta go through too, but it also depends how you invest. If you buy early, then you can sell half later on, and you're still up a ton, right? So yeah, I'm doing something 50-50 right now. So it's 50 crypto, 50 fiat, and then if the financial world collapses, crypto goes to the moon. If the crypto world collapses, I still got a bunch of fiat. So and if they both collapse, I'm fucked. But that's probably not gonna happen. So. That seems a lot less likely, so yeah. Anyways.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't see anything really collapsing.
No, it's probably gonna be fine.
Short term.
They're gonna keep this Ponzi scheme going forever. Singularity's taking off. I'm drinking. I just smoked some weed, so I'm just ranting at this point. But the Singularity, man. I bet, I swear to God, there's some dude at some high level of American sort of economic policy that's going okay, this is how fast the Singularity is evolving technology so that we become super efficient. let's inflate the supply by 10% less. They're just soaking up all this inflation, something like that, like this sort of efficiency. They're just soaking up through inflation.
Yeah.
They're doing something like that. It's not really 10% less, because I understand the interest rates in the Federal Reserve sort of thing is, they don't really hike it very much, but it's something like that. As long as you stay under the efficiency growth, technologically speaking, then you can keep riding the wave. But then if the petrodollar falls, then shit's gonna hit the fan. So that's gonna be fun.
That's pretty soon.
Yeah, that's what they've been saying for like 60 years. 30?
Well, I mean...
30.
And it has, like, fallen and fallen and fallen and fallen.
Yeah, but everybody is trying to fall faster. Because it's the primary currency.
In a race, yeah. Well, yeah, the U.S. military ensures. And that's the thing with, like, BRICS.
Proof of violence.
Yeah, yeah. Proof of stake in nuclear weapons.
Yeah, proof of violence.
Yeah, I don't know, but with BRICS and that whole, like, other contingent of very large nation states starting to say, like, we don't really want to play that game. Like, the U.S. can invade, Iraq for not using the IMF. They can invade Syria for not using the IMF. They can't really invade China and Russia. Like, they could try. But it wouldn't. I don't know. It's not the sort of thing that's real. It's not the same scale in any way. There's no way it would be worthwhile for anybody. Like, you just figure out a different way to play that game instead of.
Well, it's played in proxy wars now. Games of
you see it happening in the Ukraine and Syria and stuff right now, but that doesn't. I don't know. I don't think the U.S. has the. No. It doesn't have the. It doesn't have the power to do.
Well, sort of.
What it wants to do.
Yeah.
Economically, militarily, like, they have the military budget to, like, knock everybody else out, but they don't actually have nuclear war is not going to happen, because that doesn't help anyone that is running things.
Yeah.
If all of their slaves are gone, they don't have a plantation. Like, they don't know how to grow their own food. They don't know how to build their own cars. They don't want to do any of these things. So there's no incentive for anyone who can press the buttons to press the buttons. So since that's basically off the table, it has to be these small-scale things, because otherwise, that's the only level that they can go to it before it incites someone to press the button, and none of them want that. So, the little wars, and then just the little economic gaming back and forth, but I think that shift is happening quickly, with Europe losing so much of its power. That's like a big pillar that America kind of stands on to, or stands with. And so with Western Europe and the euro collapsing, and so many economies in Western Europe collapsing, that is, each one of those is like a little bit less strength that the dollar has as well, I feel like.
I mean, but it's true that they're collapsing in a sense, but if you look at Japan has technically been in a very, like, high inflation market for like 25 years.
Yeah.
And they're like one of the pillars of the current world economy today, because they have very, very cheap money, so they can just give credit very cheaply. So they give credit to, like, Western nations, but their society is like, I guess, cohesive enough. Like, there's not that. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea about how Japan works. Well, I have some ideas about how Japan works. They have very close borders. We know that. Like, they took in like 29 Muslim people in the past 5 years. Something, or last year or something, right? Whereas other nations are taking like hundreds of thousands, right? That's a bit of a wide range.
Yeah.
But it was something like that.
5 years.
Vaguely educated here, people. But they have close borders, and their society is like they're barely reproducing to it. I mean, Japan is weird now, but back in the day it was fucking dope. Like, I really like samurais and stuff, and anime is awesome. Anime is the best thing ever. Is there just gonna be like a rainbow gathering in Japan?
I wouldn't be surprised if they have one.
I would love that.
Yeah, I don't remember all the dates off the top of my head. If you find the YouTube video from Anarchapulco, I had a couple of them have passed now, but I had like the list of all the ones that had dates or rough dates so far for the rest of this year. So there's still 5 or 6 on that list that haven't happened yet. I know the big one, or the other big one, there's a global gathering that happens every year, and that's going to be in New Zealand this January. This coming January 2018. It's going to be in New Zealand. And then 2022, the global is going to be in Colorado. It's going to be in the U.S. for the first time because it's going to be the 50-year anniversary of Rainbow. So that's going to be massive. There could easily be 6 digits. No, 2022.
Oh, okay.
That one's a few years out still.
Right.
Yeah, it'll be right after we get done celebrating Adam's winning of the not presidency. Adam Kokesh for not president 2020. How much
are you going to put on that? How much Bitcoin are you going to bet on that one?
Huh? Oh, I don't bet Bitcoin, but
yeah, don't bet Bitcoin on that.
He's gonna get something. Maybe. He's gonna get on the ballot, or he's gonna get. Yeah, he'll be the libertarian. He'll be the Libertarian Party guy. Like he's got the
Can you imagine?
They like him. You know, they like him. Like the mainstream libertarian. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like the statist libertarians like Adam. The anarchists like Adam. You know, his plan is. It's not like he's just like, oh, I'm going to run for not president. Like he's got a lot of time and energy into really this already. It's very well thought out. Like he's got people and specific strategies picked out for how to localize and dissolve a lot of the federal agencies. Like he's already got a lot of the steps.
I'm not aware of this stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, I spent a lot of time with him. But he's got a lot of it looks really good. I'm pretty stoked. I'm not gonna. I doubt that I would register to vote. I haven't had any interaction with the government besides going through border checkpoints in a long time. But if I was gonna vote,
it would be
for that. If I believed in voting. But it's one of those things too, where it's like voting for the decriminalization of a drug. Like you're voting to reduce the violence. If you're voting for someone that wants to eliminate the federal government, then you're saying like, well, my vote is to not have it. So it kind of, I mean, it's from a moral standpoint at least.
Yeah,
I see it. For me, it's like I'm not going to be involved with them because, for one thing, they'll come after me if they know about me. I'm sure, in any kind of sense in that way, you know. I held regular jobs for a long time and didn't pay taxes and stuff. Like I just don't play any of the games, so I don't get involved.
Yeah, there's definitely that, right? And
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adam Kokesh. I didn't know about any of this. I'm really looking forward to seeing that. I think it's gonna be super interesting. The debates are gonna be fantastic.
Yeah, I can't wait to see him actually get some debates. Like,
yeah.
That would be.
If anybody's ever, do you guys watch the Cantwell versus Adam Kokesh?
Oh God. Yeah.
You watched it?
I don't. Yeah.
Did you watch
some of it? Not all of it. I can't put up with Cantwell for very long. Like he's such a.
So that was a thing.
I left a comment on that actually, like right when it happened. You know, I was like one of the first people to watch, like first 10 comments, and I said something. I was like, dude, you sound like. Oh, what did I say? There was like 3 things. I was like, you sound like a really like uneducated Stormfront member who's doing this, and he's like, well, actually, I am a member of Stormfront, and then I'm like, of course you are. Yeah, if you're not, Stormfront's like a white nationalist like the white nationalist forum, which Cantwell said in the response on his YouTube video, like, oh yeah, I'm totally a member of that.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about that guy.
Yeah, he's a very controversial guy.
I think he's like the Tom Green of the Liberty movement.
He's like, he's like
Who, just as a side note, if
he's
any
like
of you
far-right libertarian, I guess you could call him, right?
Total.
Granted, Kenny is very much on the left side of the libertarianism, right? I mean, you're technically like, what do you identify as?
I identify as a sovereign being.
If you're gun to the head, what do you identify as?
No, I don't identify as things. Like,
yeah. That's
anytime you put a label on something, you're just limiting what it is. You're not saying what it is. You're saying what it isn't. It's not anything that isn't within this description.
Wow.
Like, there's so much useless division and like senseless division, never mind the violence of like taking it to very tribal nationalist levels, just like within the freedom movement, within the liberty movement, within like conscious humans working to make the world better. The biggest thing slowing us down is people self-identifying with adjectives and thinking that people that self-identify with other adjectives are somehow not working for the same things as them.
I think some adjectives are profound enough, I know you guys because of anarchism. That's a reasonable adjective that we are comfortable with, right?
Yeah.
But it's definitely not descriptive enough, right? Like the way that I think about ethics or morality, I mean, we share so many. I feel like I share so many conclusions with people in general, and when the three of us have sort of had conversations, I'm here with Cody Limbaugh. I'll put his link on the thing, and awesome dude, also awesome dude. Let's just say hi to Cody Limbaugh right now. There you go. What's happening?
Yo, internet people. Welcome to my home.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful home. Good man. He's on Steemit now too, writing pretty amazing articles. Like five. You said it took you 5 hours. It was like probably like 3,000 words, right? 4,000 words. Yeah.
His username's though at
Just
LAYL, right? Of all your life. There you go.
Live all your life.
LA.
Live all your life.
Yep.
At Steemit.com.
Yep. Check him out.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Total tangent that just because for whatever reason I said the name Tom Green. You know who Tom Green is, right? You know who Tom Green was? He's this like comedian, musician back like big in the 90s. Like he had Eminem sang about him in one of his songs. He had a thing where I think he humped a dead moose or something on TV. He was like on MTV, like this whole thing. Anyway, he's a totally goofy guy, but if you listen to Berwick, talks about a lot how he was the number 2 white rapper in Canada back in the 90s. It's like something he drops in like almost every Anarchist episode. Well, Tom Green was the number 1 white rapper at the time. So just for anyone who does know who both of those people are, it's like just an entertaining little fun fact.
Awesome. I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, look him up. It's pretty hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, Campbell, man. Yeah, he's really it's weird. For me, it's weird because I feel like he's just such an asshole that it's hard to like the dude.
That's what I was gonna say.
But if you read some of his essays, like if you read some of his like academic or like sort of essays, and you ignore the asshole stuff that he says, damn, he's a smart dude. He's got some interesting arguments, right?
I mean,
sometimes he's got
a lot of assholes are really smart guys.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, he blocked me.
Yeah.
Things that I will not get into on YouTube. This is Facebook drama strictly.
That's pretty funny.
Strictly Facebook drama.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway. Giving that guy way too much free advertising.
Yeah, way too much content. He's probably gonna respond to this. I don't know. If he sees this, but anyway.
Oh. Yeah.
So that's gonna be interesting. Yeah, Adam Kokesh, 2016.
2020.
2020.
Yeah. Adam Kokesh for not president.
Dude, these elections are ridiculous, dude. Yeah. The internet is just on fire now. Like, history has changed. We were talking about history before, how it's like practically impossible to have certainty about history because it's hard to. Well, that's what the argument that you're making. I don't know if I completely agree with it, but like, more or less.
Yeah, I mean, anything that you haven't experienced, anything that I haven't experienced, I don't know. I have, at best, secondhand knowledge.
Yeah.
Usually, it's not secondhand knowledge. Like, with history, it's definitely not. You know, a book that was written 1,000 years ago has probably been translated a few times, like, has been certainly retyped, like, recopied. You're not reading the actual one that they hand wrote, or the, you know, like...
Yeah, you're not. I mean, most people are not. That's part of the problem, is that most people are not reading the source material. They're reading interpretations, and interpretations get sort of...
But even the source material is an interpretation. Like, if you have video or a photograph of something, that's like, that moment's frozen. Like, that's...
But
assuming
it depends on the book
a
you're
world
talking
where
about.
you
like,
can't edit video and photos, of course.
Like, depends on the book you're talking about, right? Like, I'm thinking in the Bible, but there's other books, right? There's a lot of other books.
Yeah.
The Bible is, like, edited by probably 1,000, 2,000 people.
Oh, well over that. I mean, because it was hundreds and hundreds of different writings that were all collected, and then have been edited many, many times over the years. Mm-hmm. I mean, just the original, like, turning it into the Bible when the Catholic Church formed out of the Roman Church, because the followers of Jesus were getting too big and they were worried about having them overthrow their fucking empire. So they absorbed that character, that deity figure, right into what they already had, changed all the Roman gods into saints, and
Whoa.
let it go. The the first couple hundred years after Jesus, there were no Christians in that sense. Like, the church didn't exist in any way. There were followers of Jesus who were, like Jesus, anarchists.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's writings about these things. There's lots of writings about the Gnostics. There's writing about the history of how the church formed and stuff. But that's still, that's the reality that I choose to experience. But there's no way to know. Was there Jesus? No. Yes, no. Were there 20 guys that all took like one story from each one and plug them in? Like,
we have source material, right? Like, we have source writings. All we have is writings. I mean, as to what happened.
Most of the biggest historians of the times never mentioned him, though.
Anthropology and stuff. The historians don't mention him, yeah.
Most of the biggest historians of that age didn't mention him at all.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting, yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not a historian, but... Yeah, and it's fascinating. And I'm fascinated by the whole...
I mean, if we write a book right now about the story of some people here, and we make real places, real events as reference, all this stuff, it doesn't matter if the events that we're actually writing about, the specific things, happened or not. 1,000 years from now, if we put it out as a nonfiction, if we put it out as something that happened, a real story, and people believe it, and then down the road, like... There's no differentiation.
But people could counter it. People could say, like, I know, I was there. Never saw the dude.
But nowadays people can. In the old days you couldn't. Most people didn't know how to read or write. Well, so if someone writes a book that says, here's the story of this event.
From, like, I guess, was it the Romans that killed him? The Romans?
It was the Romans that killed him.
Okay, they don't have a record of that?
No.
The Romans don't have a record of...
Everything was destroyed. I mean, Rome was burnt multiple times. That's the thing, is like, our history is also neatly wiped out by overly aggressive warlord types. Yeah. Pretty often. The Library of Alexandria, like Iraq, Afghanistan, like Germany, like France, Japan, like lots of places where, in different ways, some war has wiped out untold amounts of documentation about our past
and people.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. I think it's just really hard to.
Yeah.
Like,
so it's very difficult to know what happened way back, but the internet has made it so that we know almost everything. Like, the NSA has the most valuable record of history that's ever happened, right? Like, at some point, somebody, politically or otherwise, is gonna end up getting access to that information. And it's so much information that downloading it, illegally would be ridiculous, I guess, maybe, right?
Yeah, I mean, you
have to download. Like, there's not enough storage. There's probably, like, how much storage would you need to download?
Yeah, like, you look at how big the place in Utah is, like, the data storage center for that. Like, there's no.
But so the point about that is that we have this incredibly detailed record of history now. Even though there's so much information, you could take your whole life many times over to sort of scum it over. But if you start building AI that can read this or something, I don't know. At least the information is there, and you can have certain amount of verification, right? So history writing for our time our epoch has completely changed.
It hasn't. Because there's still, you go look at let's pick a historical event. Like modern history, something that happened a year ago, 2 years ago, right? If there's actual video of it, and that video is like continuous, you know what I mean? But but that's what I'm saying. It's so if you take some event that happened, if it has any sort of political significance whatsoever, or even economic significance or something, you're gonna have Fox News and like these right sources writing about it in a very specific way, telling a story. These left sources telling a story. Al Jazeera telling a story. The BBC telling a story. Some anonymous or other like alternative journalists all telling stories. And if we don't have like an exact record, like if we don't have it videotaped, if we don't have the audio recording, if we don't have, then it's still all these people doing research, hopefully, but picking out the parts that fit fit their story. You know what I mean? Like, it's still...
Yeah, that's totally true.
There's no unified... Like, in theory, we have so much of it that you could go through and find all those pieces and put them together and figure out what really happened.
It's impossible to get the full picture too. Like, it's literally like you could not get the full picture because all you have is cameras at best. Right?
Yeah, well, you never have intent of the people, like anyone involved in something. You don't know what someone's thinking. Like, if we have video of 5 people interacting in a certain way, we don't have like what's going on in the heads of any of those 5 people.
Yeah, like empathetic people can read a great deal.
Interacting with someone in person,
like people are watching this right now, they're hearing words and they're looking at our face and they're seeing expressions and they're seeing context. Like, you can read like at the end of the day, it's about what individuals can read and will agree with. Right?
But it's each person's own totally personal subjective things there. Because anything that you're reading,
patterns between what people believe and
observation and imagination. Like, if I see you make a certain face, that's an observation. That's an observation. I observe your face going into this shape. Any meaning that I apply to that is my own imagination based on programmed beliefs of what that kind of facial expression means. That doesn't mean that it's the same to you. If you come from a different culture, the same facial expression is going to have a different completely meaning in different cultures.
That's totally wrong. Like,
that is absolutely the way that it works.
Anger looks very similar here or in many other places. The fact that some people
different people.
Like, smiles
depends on how they
facial expression that's recognized all over the world.
But in every other animal, that's a predatory thing.
Like a cultural
in a predator, like the smiling is baring teeth. It's an aggressive thing. Humans are the only ones that bare our teeth to show happiness.
But there's growling too. It's like, right, and it's more like, like if you're showing your when you're smiling, it's different, dude. Like,
that's what I'm saying. But those are cultural norms. That's not like physical absolute.
Like,
those are cultural norms. You're trained culturally. These are the physical.
So you say that tribes, like you say that monkeys can't recognize facial expressions.
They can inside of their groups, totally. Inside of a culture, inside of a set of behaviors,
psychology, metaphysics.
Inside of a group of people that have a set of shared behaviors, you can assume that those physical behaviors
does the same thing in the brain. Does that perceptual simulation happen in the brain? Like,
what's happening in the brain on both sides? Because there's what I'm doing. Your physical body is responding to your brain. Like, the brain is the physical body. It's part of it. It's the same. There's no differentiation. Like, anything that the physical body does is because of electrical impulses in the brain. Anything going on in the brain is because of what's going on everywhere else in the body too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm saying if you grew up.
No, it's not all.
If you grow up like, and your family.
Okay, hold on. So the brain. Let me respond, because like the brain actually has layers of ways of interpreting the world. So you have the reptilian brain, and then you have the mammalian brain on top of it, and it grew on top of it, and then on top of it grew the neocortex, which is sort of a lot more abstract and kind of linguistic, right? Like, animals don't have language centers, but humans do. We can actually speak. We built up a full language capacity, right? And there's, snakes. Snakes are a sort of symbol of chaos and danger throughout almost every religion. Like, so many religions use snakes as a symbol in their mythology. Well, snakes were like a really dangerous thing back when you were monkeys, right? Because snakes could climb the trees and fucking bite you, right? So that's how deep the symbology of snakes is. It goes back to like monkey, mammalian, sort of, pre-human forms, right? Like, there's archetypes of symbolism built into our body that goes way, way, way before we even had like anywhere remote to what we would call human society today.
Again, that's not a totally set thing. Like, in many cultures around the world, especially before global conquests became a thing, snakes were viewed as just a symbol of transformation, evolution. Like, that was the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's why St. Patrick's Day is about driving the snakes out of Ireland. That's about the Catholic Church removing the Druids and the Celtic spirituality from Ireland.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. They saw the snakes as a symbol of something that's chaotic and
Well,
dangerous.
just transformation.
So-
No, it wasn't
No,
a.
but you're removing
in-
the snakes. The snakes are bad.
Well, the
sort of
Christians
joking.
were, yeah, because
Yeah.
their particular story is about a snake being the devil.
Yeah.
That's not. It's not a universal thing. That's not in Hinduism. That's not in Celtic stuff. That's not in Mayan or Aztec. That's very specifically Abrahamic. It comes from the Old Testament.
You're saying there's no snakes in.
I'm not saying there's none anywhere, but in most
Bible.
of like the Americas and the more people that were still more polytheistic before Christianity came to them, it was very rarely.
I've seen
negative
paintings.
thing.
I've seen paintings of art that is non-Judeo-Christian or. I mean, I don't know if. See, I'm not a historian in this, but so Jordan Peterson talks a lot about this.
And see, I disagree with him about most things.
Dude,
actually.
I'm loving everything I'm saying, but I'm not a historian at that level.
His take on.
But what about the paintings? He has like paintings of a bunch of. Have you seen like his biblical series on like analysis of the Bible?
No.
Dude, you have. If you don't have watched
No.
that, you don't know what he's talking about because that's where he lays down all the evidence. Like if you don't
That's
like,
interesting.
yeah.
I mean, the Bible is a very.
He's not just talking about the Bible.
limited
He doesn't
thing.
just talk about the Bible.
So.
He grabs the Bible, extracts a sort of meta archetypal story out of it, and then shows evidence from evolutionary psychology and other religions, and builds an evolutionary rational case for the meaning of that story and why it's relevant in the Bible. Now he's not just defending the Bible. He talks about like he sort of his basic argument from my perspective is he's saying, from what I understand, is he's saying there's deep allegories and sort of like fundamental stories of good and evil in these old books, and it's not just the Bible. He's just starting the Bible because the Bible is the most relevant to his culture. Right? It's the one that he knows the most and people know the most in the West. But you could do, and he's sort of talking on the edges of Islam, and he's sort of touching on the edges of Judaism, but he's Westerner, so West is Judaism, is Jesus and Christianity. But you could apply the same methodology to that, and he would not argue against. Like he's not like a Christian necessarily. I mean, I don't know what he would identify as, right? But he's not just trying to defend Christianity. He's trying to defend the moral the metaphorical value in the stories as something that can help us make moral choices in the world, in the human experience.
Yeah, that's what all spiritual writings are. Like that's what the point of them is to present deep metaphysical, ethical concerns as a story so that people can just intake it and internalize it rather than hearing it as like, do this, don't do that, this is right, this is wrong.
Yeah.
Like they can experience it through the story. Yeah. In 1,000 years, there's going to be a religion of the alchemist because that book has gotten massive, and it's that exact same thing. Maybe it'll get rolled into with a bunch of other books into a new holy text, but it's the same thing, you know. Like that's what it is. It's just somebody writing a story just like that, but way back in the past when people were more superstitious.
Satoshi Nakamoto.
Right.
Free Satoshi. Need a handshake. Yeah. The Satoshis will be done.
Satoshi. It's a very interesting thing. Yeah, there's a really good article on Steemit recently of like kind of broad picture like Bitcoin and what it represents and like where it came from. Like we don't know. So we can see how people are using it right now. We can see, you know, but it's like, yeah, it's very interesting. It's like it does line up. It is one of those. It's like a semi-desensitizing thing towards the idea of, you know, cashless society and stuff. Even if it's not a direct thing, it definitely normalizes that sort of thing.
Yeah, but I mean, he talked about privacy, and privacy's fungibility. So it's
on a fully
like Steemit
public
is
record
not private at all. Yeah,
blockchain. Like it's.
But it was.
I understand. It's pseudonymous.
He did write that, like I'm pretty sure he wrote that and said that was one of the concerns, right? But I guess you would do that if you were sort of trying to take over the world, right?
Yeah. You're not gonna be like, I want to. Yeah.
Well, the fee system is kind of weird too because cash, you don't pay fees when you give somebody a dollar bill. Like, yeah, sure, there might be a little bit of decay in the dollar, but like you're not paying a you have to pay to transport it anywhere beyond the immediate circle, right?
Yeah.
But so that's the fee is transportation, right? And I guess in Bitcoin the fee is also transportation. It's sort of securing and ensuring the integrity of the transaction. So that's the transaction fee you're paying. But there's also inflation that's being paid, so you're paying twice. And Steemit has a really interesting solution to that, but it's also way less decentralized. So like, if you're going from 21 witnesses, well, I guess you have the delegated proof of stake, and there's this sort of full list of people you can choose to be block block producers. That's what they call them. Block producers, and so I mean, it's hard. It's difficult to compare how decentralized two systems are. But Bitcoin is definitely way more secure than any other cryptocurrency. I mean, as far as like hashing power alone, like the actual costs of buying all that computing power are pretty high. I don't know if you could compare that to the costs of buying up all of Steemit. Like how much Steemit is worth? Like Steemit is worth 300. Yeah, 300 million.
Oh,
right?
It just dropped in half from wherever it was, right?
Let's assume it's 300 million. You could, if you spend $1 billion, you could probably own Steemit. Right, but how much money would you have to invest to own Bitcoin? You would have to buy a lot of hardware wallet. Granted, if somebody tries to spend $1 billion or like $1 trillion trying to take over the Bitcoin mining hardware market, that would not necessarily drive. I mean, that could drive the value of Bitcoin up because people argue the security is going up. But at some point there'd be a panic. It's like, who the fuck's buying this? And it would sort of leak, and the price would crash. Whereas with Steemit, the price with Steemit would go up steadily as well until people realize somebody's trying to take over. And it would be the same thing, more or less. Except that it wouldn't be as direct.
Market exchanges going on.
Yeah.
You go in and buy and buy and buy and buy. Then.
But it wouldn't be as direct a relationship. Like with hardware like hashing power is not the same as buying the cryptocurrency tokens. It's just a sort of market correlation that's sort of held up till now.
Right.
Whereas with Steemit, you would actually have to buy the token to go and buy a bunch of Steam power to be able to choose the witnesses that you want to choose. Yeah. So it's so a Steemit price would moon. That's why I said $1 billion over $300 million. Maybe if it's $2 million or $3 million, I don't know. Right. Whereas with Bitcoin, I don't know how much it would cost to buy that much hardware power. And how easy it would be to see that would happen. So, yeah, dude. Game theoretical, crypto security stuff. Yeah, this is the conversation that used to happen like back in the day. Like if you look at the old school Bitcoin magazine articles that Vitalik Buterin will write, because he was like the founder of Bitcoin magazine, and Bitcoin magazine he's either the founder or one of the founders, and Bitcoin magazine is the best journalistic outlet for cryptocurrencies right now, in my opinion. Like the articles that they put out are just high quality journalism. Even though they obviously they took a position on the current conflict, but their argumentation, I mean, the case that they make is pretty deep, pretty solid. So I mean, I don't know. I think the Bitmain I don't trust Bitmain. The way that they act, the way that they take action based on what they claim they believe in there's way less congruency and integrity there compared to the way that the blockstream people are doing it. Even though I criticize blockstream at Acapulco 20 whatever second one, because they are a company. I mean, they're a corporation or sorts. So but yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards blockstream right now, or at least Bitcoin Core, not necessarily blockstream, just Bitcoin Core, the open source process of Bitcoin Core.
A friend of mine has a good point about, because you can kind of, if you're investing in cryptocurrencies, you're not putting it all in one thing, right?
Oh shit, card has been full for a while, so we've just been talking, but this thing is still recording, so awesome. Okay. We'll stop this. We can still talk.
I think. My friend's saying what he does is to send people money. Actually, just like if you're just doing a quick.
Sorry, let me just. So you're saying that to send people money?
Yeah, instead of sending people money with Bitcoin, sending people the money, like doing transactions in a different coin that has a much cheaper transaction fee.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because even if it's percentage based or if it's, you know, just that's like Dogecoin, you know, you could send them $10,000 worth of Dogecoin for like 70 cents or something. It's like super cheap comparatively. And there's always like the ups and downs on prices, but for doing a transaction, I guess you'd have to already have the Dogecoin.
I mean, yeah, and with Bitcoin, like, it's not like you pay more the more you send. It's you pay the more unspent outputs you have. So basically, if you get 20 transactions sent to 20 deposits to your Bitcoin wallet, and your Bitcoin wallet has something called hierarchical deterministic, which actually it's not even that. It's like basically if you get, as far as I know, if you get 20 deposits and you turn that into one transaction, you're gonna pay a higher fee than if you get one deposit and you make one transaction.
Huh.
You're gonna get 20, like, well, I don't know about 20 times, but you're gonna get more.
Of what it's what it's recording.
Yeah, you have to do a bunch of like computation of all these things, and then yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's computationally more expensive.
Yeah, I don't know. The transaction fee thing definitely slows down a lot of my activity with.
Yeah. Okay, tell us about.
There's been some crazy expensive times.
Yeah, it's getting really expensive.
Yeah.
I don't really.
Yeah, like.
Yeah, it's getting like $3
For a long
or
time,
something.
I never saw anything more than like a couple bucks. Now it's like $5, $6, $7 sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, during peak hours, and you're just like, I guess I'll wait until later.
Yeah. I'm liking Dash because Dash is a lot cheaper, but I'm really hoping. I mean, and I don't really know that it's gonna get any better. Like if Blockstream and Core win, transactions don't necessarily go down. Like they might go down for a little bit, but the demand is infinite for this kind of security. So supply for block capacity is gonna stay limited all the time. So transaction fees are gonna go up. Something like there. Yeah, I don't know how Roger Ver and the other side of the debate are planning on doing it, but I don't really, I mean, unless they have like a massive block size, it's hard to scale these things. It really is. We don't really have a solution for scaling other than economic solutions. So Dash has a really interesting scaling solution, which is because they have the masternode system, so they're actually paying from the creation of new blocks so the inflation supply. They're from the inflation they're paying people that have masternodes, which they grab like 1,000 Dash, which is like $180,000 to lock up a sort of create a masternode. Then they provide services like anonymity and instant transactions and stuff, and there's like 4,000 of them, so it's very decentralized compared to like, well, you can Steemit, right? Like Steemit has 21 at all times,
you can
and a pool of like at least 50, at very least 50. Yeah, people are doing sort of share systems, like so you can buy shares of a masternode, right? So like Steemit has like 21 out of 100 that they can choose from at any point. Dash has 4,000 all the time. At least, I don't know. That's what it used to be. I haven't checked it in a while, but that's what it was for a long time. 4,000. And they pay from the block reward. And then these masternodes have their own, they have each one vote, and from that vote they allocate 10% of the resources to a variety of different projects that fund the growth of Dash, which is super interesting. I think it's a really, like, it's a very interesting governance strategy of all the strategies that I've heard of. It's a very, very interesting strategy. Decred is also doing some crazy stuff around governance. They have a fascinatingly deep analysis, and sort of like a lot of people were talking a lot about governance in that community, to my knowledge. But yeah, so that's a thing. Decred, but it's a lot smaller, right? And I don't know that they're that focused on privacy, so they don't have that sort of. Privacy is one of the most valuable things in crypto, because people recognize the problem that if you have this sort of cryptographically provable record of history, you can actually start doing crazy surveillance with it.
Yeah.
And this is a lot of the stuff that used to be talked about in Bitcoin Magazine, and like the sort of the old days of crypto, like where I get in was privacy and fungibility, and sort of comparing security consensus systems to each other, and that's not really talked about these days a lot at all. So we'll talk about it more again.
They're increasing the block size on Steam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dash as well. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, dude.
Keep up.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. So Dash pays its masternodes enough money that they can sustain high costs of processing power and storage, whereas Bitcoin doesn't pay full nodes to do what full nodes do, which is verify the integrity of the economic accounting, right? So that there's 21 million Bitcoin that can be, and nobody's creating coins out of thin air, right? And they can do that validation, but it takes resources. But then nobody's getting paid to do that, only miners, right? So the miners are, they do a lot of it, right? So that's part of the concern, right? That if you grow the blockchain too big, then people are going to stop validating their transactions, and it's going to become centralized only to the miners instead of people validating their own transactions with a full node. Now you can download a full node and run it on your computer, but if it becomes like something like 3 terabytes of hardware space is like 1% of Visa's volume, fuck, right? And that's a year. That's per year.
Right.
That's some of the math that we did. So
yeah, that's pretty wild.
it's fucking crazy. Yeah. So that was the math that we did. Maybe I'm wrong about the math. They'll let us know if we're wrong about the math. But yeah. Now 3 terabytes a year is not that much, because 3 terabytes is like at $50 a piece. It's getting cheaper, right? So, but it's still like you basically have to get a server in your house, right? Unless it gets cheap enough, right? Like you were saying that there's like terabyte SD cards
Soon.
that are coming out. That are going to come out at some point soon. Yeah, Cody was talking about that.
Well, that Seagate I was selling about 6 terabytes for about $120 now.
6 terabytes for $130.
On Amazon.
$20 a
That's awesome.
terabyte.
It's fucking cool.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. So that's the argument pro big, like making the blocks bigger. And Satoshi Nakamoto did make an argument that this is like a temporary DOS protection. But then there's other people that have pulled up quotes from Satoshi saying that, well, I don't know. It gets all kinds of almost pseudo religious at that point, because like he said this, he said that, but like okay,
Who cares?
but what is the truth, right?
Like-
and maybe he was right,
Or
but
what's going to be best, anyway.
yeah, what is going to be best? Yeah.
What is prudent? What is
Yeah.
right? What is prudent?
And it's not an easy, it's not a simple question to the point where it's going to split, right? Like if it was easy to achieve the truth, then why don't we have consensus? Well, because maybe there's malicious parties, or maybe there's different priorities, right? And because this is, and I think that's sort of what it is. There might be like a psychological sort of cultural thing, like it's the business people versus the developers. That's one analysis that has happened, right? The developers are computer scientists are focused on computer science integrity of systems, right? And business people are talking about like how do you scale this thing so that we can grow, and so they look for easier solutions that will work, and maybe they're right, but they're not in computer scientists, and computer science is like a fucking legit, like you have to be near close to a mathematician. Then again, you could say that business people are also should be good at math because they're dealing with money, and money is accounting, but it's different kind of math. It just gets really
Most business people
very
have
sophisticated.
math people.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
But a better understanding of economics, as far as
Yeah.
the human side of it.
Yeah, so economics, do they understand economics? Yeah. And economics is soft science too. It's like, I think crypto is really pushing economics theory a lot further than libertarians, at least in the recent years, have. I mean, the old school libertarian classics, right? I mean, do you guys follow any modern economists, like libertarian economists? We're reading old school libertarian economics, right? Like the economists are in crypto right now, and that's where it's happening, really. Dan Lerner, you could argue, he's an economist, right? It's the guy that founded Steemit and was the lead developer of Steemit for a while. Now he's doing EOS, which is
Also
it's
created
pretty
by
interesting.
shares.
Dude. It's like the Steemit of Ethereum. Like it's like that's kind of what they're trying to do. Except it's not social media. It's just the system applied to. Anyways, read the TDV article I posted.
Yeah, he's got some great content that he's put out actually.
The premium
like
article.
philosophy and stuff. Like,
Yeah, Dan Lerner has got some.
He
Yeah,
did a really good series on Steemit. It was like the first one was capitalism and socialism, the synthesis, and so like goes into both of them and like major misconceptions that people have about both of them, and like what the synthesis of that looks like.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
I
so you
skimmed
got
that. It was
something way
really
over
good.
here, you got something way over here. You, instead of being polarized, you pick the best facets of each side and plug them together, and that's what you should be striving for. You know,
Yeah.
the best of both.
Yeah.
And then he went into like a
In
4 or
crypto
5
systems, that
part
makes
series about creating a voluntary, nonviolent, universal basic income as well. Like right after that piece.
Interesting.
It was really, really good. It was
Dan Lerner.
8 or 9 months ago now, but
Yeah.
it's really like some of the best stuff I've seen written.
I skimmed those articles and they looked absolutely fascinating. I want to read them at some point. Dan Lerner, really interesting guy. I mean, you know, there's this thing happening. It's like Bitcoin people accuse every crypto of being scammers. It's like, fuck off.
Well, I think that's just like I totally get it from one standpoint of like all crypto, all these things are like creating money out of thin air.
Yeah.
Yes, like there's different proofs of this and there's different like all these, but it's still
Yeah, it's still like
you're saying, okay, we
Yeah.
took a computer, we wrote lines of code, and now there's things that are worth money. You know, like it's.
I think it's just our definitions of money are just not
Yeah.
deep enough. Because again, like this whole rainbow example where, like rainbow people are all out against money. I find it.
No, currency, government currencies. It's not an anti-money thing. It's an anti-currency thing. There's a currency is something that doesn't have its own value outside of being a medium of exchange. There's monies or like gold and so like things that actually are real things and can be used as mediums of exchange.
So government
It's like crystals.
fiat currencies really
Yeah.
what they're opposed to.
Yeah, they're opposed like this currency side of it, like creating things just for exchange, and specifically like U.S. government currency, other blood dead backed
Yeah.
currencies.
Yeah. So the fiat,
Not exchange. Like it's not an issue with exchange or even mediums of exchange. It's an issue with specifically the mediums of exchange that dominate the global market.
yeah,
right
it's
now.
proof of violence, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you think that they like will rainbow people like silver coins or gold coins?
Oh yeah, you can trade.
Yeah?
You can trade precious metals at Rainbow. Totally.
Dope.
Yeah,
right.
you can trade
That's
crystals. You can trade coffee, chocolate, cannabis.
dope. Yeah.
You know, what I mean, you can trade or gift or otherwise exchange anything
Cigarettes,
you
I was
want
trading
except
cigarettes.
for the government currencies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's a fair counter argument. Yeah. Yeah.
It's an interesting thing. And it's all shifted too. Like these things have all kind of evolved.
Yeah.
As Rainbow start, as it adapts to the world as it changes and to growing people of a wider diversity. When it started, it was like Vietnam and Korean War vets, ecological activists, and just like pure hippies. And now it's spread to like so much more than that in terms of like where people fall on the spectrum. So the culture and everything has shifted with that as well.
Dope.
Freaking wild, man.
Rainbow's
It's wild.
amazing. Check out Rainbow.
Yeah.
All right, we're way over an hour now.
Yeah, it's late.
Yeah, dude, it's late.
Yeah.
Is there anything we want to say? Anything? Any ending words? Final words? It's been good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good time. Here, ending final words. I've been getting on this one and refining the language a little bit too. So there's more new data every day than any human can possibly keep up with.
Yeah.
There's more new data about problems, issues, violence, control, all these things every day than you can keep up with. And there's more new data about solutions to those things, about people working cooperatively, about alternatives to the energy, the medicine, the economics, all that. New communities, movements, every day than you can possibly keep up with. And so where we're putting our focus shapes our entire experience of this reality and how we see it going. That's the thing. So if you want to focus on the problems, you're going to see a world that's getting worse every day. And if you want to focus on just the solutions, you're going to see a world that's getting better every day. And we all have that choice every day. And if you're watching this, then you're on the internet, and that means you have access to all that stuff. So you can go down a rabbit hole on either side as far as you want to go.
Yeah.
it's important for people to make that choice. Like, actually make a choice. Not just, like, start hearing about problems and then continue down the problem path forever, but, like, stop and realize you're choosing to go one way or the other. Or the other way of, like, putting your head in the sand and not
Wow.
looking out at all. But people on that side are watching your videos, I'm assuming.
Yeah. yeah. And you're talking to a good group of people, man. Wow. What a message. Information is infinite, attention is scarce.
There you go.
You choose the future. Thank you for watching.
Have a great night, great day.
You have an awesome day and night.
Peace. You are beautiful.
You are beautiful.
Powerful. You are free.
Loving you, man. That was a
Yeah.
yeah, the rainbow goodbye. All right.